Yeah, hi. Hi everyone. Welcome to another podcast of Shridhar's newsletter. Welcome to our show, Minimalist Techie. So, it's been a long time. Let's talk about something related to the career topic this week. Okay. So, if you're thinking about what career topic I'm going to talk about this week, uh, I'm more interested to talk about the distributed or virtual teams. Yes. So it's been more than mm, uh, almost near to like 15 months, right? 15 months since working remote now. So we all are actually most of the people working in the IT workforce. We're actually working remote, and the people, yeah, not everyone, I would say, the people who are actually have an eligibility or the people who are working in such a project where you don't have to be on site, especially those type of people, and I'm also one of them who are actually working more than 15 months. I'm actually working remote. I have never been to office in last 15 months, and the next 4 to 5 months as well. I'm not sure if I'll be going to an office. Yeah, we talked about multiple career related topics during our podcast for sure. But what interested me is definitely like remote culture is there since very long, but pandemic has definitely teached us many lessons. So this is the reason why this week this might be a repetitive topic or repetitive talk. My text or whatever I might have written earlier or whatever I talked earlier or whatever I read from the books, it might be. But I definitely want to remind myself how to get the remote teams, basically like how to make sure that your virtual teams perform better, and how exactly as a lead or as a leader, how exactly you can make sure that your team is performing well. So at least I care a lot about it, because only when the team performs well, every person in that team would be would be a happier one. And when team performs well, not just the individual person within the team, it also benefits the organizations as well, right? So let's talk about distributed teams for sure. So see, what distributed teams, virtual teams. See, organizations can have team members who are in different time zones, right? In with the pandemic, and we all have been sitting in a home. People have been moved to their home locations. So, and we have been onboarding resources from different part of the world. So even in my own team, actually, we used to be all resources from US. Now we have resources in US, we have a resource in Canada, then we have a resource in India as well. So it's very important that as people are coming from multiple time zones, they come with a different countries, so they come with a different culture. So yeah, it's very important that we understand this global culture, and when we really work with such virtual teams. See, people can now, they're able to work from home, they're able to cut down their environmental footprint by not commuting every day to office, right? So there are many benefits of having a virtual teams, but there are also a lot of challenges in that. At least I have my own experience, because I have been working since more than 10 years, near to 10 years now in US, and I have managed multiple teams within US, in UK, in Canada, then in India as well. So I have worked with these multiple people from different countries itself. So yeah, once you have really, definitely it's an art, and you really have to learn it. People who say that it's impossible to make changes, but I would say give it a try, boss. it's it's a fun ride. You really need to, it's a keep on I would say for me it's a keep on learning attitude. I read something, I hear something. Yep. So I'll think through something, that I will always try to bring some changes in how I run my agile project teams, especially virtually. Okay. So very first thing is, this actually made me recall about is if you are doesn't matter whether you are running your team in virtual or either you are one of the team member who are actually working remote. So it's very important that everyone maintain professionalism at for towards work, and they have a basic code of ethics. So when I say like this, so basically, if you are part of a virtual team members, do make sure that you listen to others' point of view and try to understand them. Listening is the most important skill. We talked about it in a multiple podcast. So I'll reiterate again. Do listen to others' point of view and be very attentive there and try to understand their point of view as well. Be open to take a feedback. And if you have any conflict within the team, please don't start the blame game, don't start the gossiping, I would say. You should actually talk to the person with whom you are having a disagreement or a conflict. That's the right way to actually to resolve or so that's the best way in the conflict management, I would say. So just talk to the directly with that person. So if you really don't mess up your head and don't try to mess up your entire morning or evenings whenever you're having such a nasty calls with your team. You know, it might be in a when I say team, it might be your own team, it might be your cross teams. It can yeah. So people are like right now working in high stressful jobs, and as you are in working from home, you have a lot more other distractions as well. So it's not really that much easy as you're sitting in office, you being alone working on your stuff, right? And when I say about this, not every person who is working virtually, because you are not seeing the other person on the screen, right? So it's very easier, and it's science and it's proven fact that because you are not seeing the uh, other person in front of you, you'll because it's your camera is shut off and only the audio is visible. So it's very easy for you to interrupt. It's very easy for you to simply shake your hands in a disagreement, and your tone itself gets changed because you're right now you're just in a remote so you're completely only in audio mode, so no one is able to see you how angry you are. And basically those type of emotions, because now they are hidden in the calls, as you're only doing maybe audio call. It's very easy for people who don't have a proper anger management or proper stress management. People will easily lose professionalism at workplace. So doesn't matter, always conduct yourself in a professional manner. It's pretty important. And when you're really working in a virtual teams, especially it happens even in when you work together in a co-located space as well, right? Avoid any favoritism, I would say. So there's no favorite person in the team is a team. So try to, as I remember reading that in Netflix book, which is to make sure that your team is sometimes treat it as a professional team. So you want best players in your team. So if you need a best players in your team, you have to make sure that you respect each and everyone in your team, right? So there is no point in favoring yourself to certain team members, or so it will actually, when you get into this type of situation, what will happen is you'll knowingly or unknowingly you'll actually impact your own good resources, and you end up assigning more work, or you end up moving someone else shitload of work to them. So it's pretty important that you never exercise your power of expertise and try to influence anything for your personal benefits. So, okay, so always think in the best interest of the project, best interest of your work, best in yeah. And once again, because it's being a virtually from an ethics perspective, I would say professionalism, as we talked about it, people very easily get into in these days in a even in abusive manner. I have known people in the call saying that, oh, you never listen, you never listen, or okay, I've mentioned you n number of times. It seems you are deaf, and let me reiterate you once again. So you just see how exactly a person's tone is coming in these lines. So these type of people will actually, I'm not sure how stressful they are, and this type of people easily lose their manners as well. So do make sure you get everyone maintains in your team, yourself, an entire team, a professional code of ethics in the team. All right, and especially when you work in a virtual team, let's talk about a couple of things. I guess stereotyping or gender bias. So these are like they are pretty so bias, unconscious bias, so conscious bias. So there are a number of bias are there. So if you without knowing anything, you'll actually end up impacting your own work schedule. So do avoid any type of stereotypes for sure. Like a person. Like who is say if you are 8 years of experience and you got an similar skill set resource, and someone is having 20 years of experience and he's still having the same skill set when he was 8 years old, maybe that guy didn't, okay, that's his personal choice why he didn't upskill, why he didn't move to a higher career. So never bias it based upon, never do the age discrimination, or never do a race discrimination, never do a caste discrimination. I'm not sure like how many things we can say about discrimination these days, right? So just treat your team as professional sports team. So you really don't care as long as your team wins. You really don't care as long as your team has that winning zeal within them, right? Even you're about to lose a match, you need a team which still keeps a positive attitude to turn things around, right? So you need such type of a team. If you need that, you definitely don't need such type of people who actually conflict with your ideology or conflict because of the stereotypes or anything. And when especially, yeah, so that's like the next thing is I would say stereotype, as we talked about stereotypes, and because discrimination, age discrimination, race discrimination, no, I talked about it. So now I'm realizing that yes, uh, the culture, especially based upon the country they belong to. We all know that we all have heard it. Someone have. I would say read a book, Culture Map. So I did remember that I mentioned this particular book review in one of my newsletter, Culture Map. To definitely give a read about it, you understand how, how exactly Chinese person respond, why how exactly a Russian person respond, how exactly Indian respond, how exactly an American gives us the feedback or takes in the feedback. When you really understand the culture, yeah, culture is definitely in a big shock for uh, big shock if you have not worked virtually. If you none of your team members, if all of your team members are in similar location, you'll never understand this. Only when you go global and when you work with the teams from different countries, you'll really get in a pretty big culture clash. So don't have that cultural shock. Read certain books so that you understand and take a note. So take an example that if you are flying to an American client, or say you are flying to an Singapore client, if you have to be in that particular location for a month, so I would simply pick a book and try to understand the culture side of it, so that it's it's pretty important, because sometimes what you say positively, other person may not be hearing it right. And even sometimes when you given a pretty strong pretty good feedback, and last two lines if you say that you didn't perform well, then if it depends upon how exactly you're communicating it, the other person who is receiving it, he might be ignored entire 35 minutes what you said good things about him. He'll just simply remember the last two lines where you asked him for improvement. So, so that's the reason communication is pretty important, not especially when you talk to your own people from your own country. At the same, it's very important when you talk to the people across the globe, because everyone comes with a different culture, so their work habits might be different, their taking time offs might be different, or their time in time outs are different. They might be they are having different, they're working in different time zones, so you don't know how exactly their daycare culture in their country it is. So you never know multiple things. So it's pretty important that you really understand that global context, how exactly people in a different country, what are their working habits, what are their communication styles, what time zone they are in, so that you simply don't bombard someone with 5 a.m. Uh, stand-up calls or meetings, right? So you really need to understand time zones and all that. Yeah, and it's important, I would say, when you build such type of teams. At least what I realized was, I actually added, I actually do on every 2 weeks. I do on you call it as a team reflections or a agile retrospective type of a meeting, where we really talk about from agile perspective to retrospective session, what we did well, what we can do more, right? So what challenging us. So mostly that type of it, but we also take at least 20 to 25 minutes. We talk about non-work related topics. So, and it's very important when you give every individual person to talk about something non-work related topic, you will understand their different communication style, what are their different habits these persons have it, and how exactly their tone of language is when you, especially when you talk non-work related things. Yeah. So do that, because I definitely, I'm not sure, like since 2017 18 onwards I have started this, and I do this at least every 15 days. I do a meeting with my team where we really don't talk anything related to project. Sometimes, yeah, we do talk about the project when really too many things are going on, or then. But if not, we'll try to restrict as in a non-project work related topics, so that that will actually let us know, and it will make a good relationship within the team as well. Yeah. Yeah. So having such type of meetings actually, especially with the remote teams, because they are not in front of you, do make sure that your team, although you might be leading it or you're one of the team member, doesn't matter who you are, everyone should have a visibility to overall plan what they're working for. Okay, so what is their project, what is their project mission statement, and what exactly their goals, what actually they want to meet, and so what are the actual the ground rules, I would say, right? So you need to understand what are your ground rules on a day-to-day work basis, or what is exactly. So and everyone works in a time box manner, right? Doesn't matter whether it's a waterfall model or in the 6 months, or whether it's an agile model, 2 weeks, three weeks, 1 week sprints as well. So it's always a time box. So should be pretty good to have everyone on the same page, everyone understand their mission statement for the project, what exactly they are trying to achieve, and so that is definitely helpful. So we talked about conflict for sure, yeah. And I would say you should have a casual team meeting. At the same time, you should have a casual 5 minutes, 10 minutes checkup calls with the individual team members as well. So yeah, you all meet in the team meetings, you all meet in your daily stand-ups, but that's all very professional where you talk about the things. So this is the 5 10 minutes is the one where you might be simply helping the team member to resolve certain his issue or certain code issue what he is actually running into. So it might be multiple things, but try to do those 5 to 10 minutes casual meeting. Even you're talking work related, make sure that your tone is very casual. Don't get into that status mode, and don't get into uh, task assignment mode and all that. So because that will actually help you to do the team building within, and basically like the team will also make sure that environment is safe for them, so that they can give a feedback, they can take a feedback, they can raise issues, so whatnot, right? So I would say when, especially when you all work remote, we are all are virtually there. Make sure that the entire team has a pretty good understanding of. So we talked about mission statement goals, pretty good understanding of every day-to-day activities for at least for 2 weeks. What at least people should have on their site for, okay, what exactly their planned work is for the next 2 weeks, right? So that level of granular level information should be available. So don't deal with people. If at all you end up, you have to spoon feed them every day to day, then basically it's an issue for them as well, and it's an issue for you as well. So that's the reason it's pretty important that entire team has a pretty good understanding of the project and its schedule, and what exactly the success looks like. Yeah, so you really need to define or set in a bar, I would say. Okay, so what is, if someone is saying the work is done, so there has to be some quality deliverable as well, right? So you need to set certain bar and make sure that you improve on that quality. And wherever you see that if the team is missing or you are missing, make sure that as part of your team reflections, retrospective sessions, you bring back those type of questions, so that you can make sure that you take an action item in the retrospective meetings, and you work on in the later weeks. So make sure that there's an improvement in the deliverable. Okay, so I would say there is always a room for improvement. There is always a room to improve performance. There's all, yeah. So as we work more and more, I guess the technology, the way it's been adapted, and the more languages are coming out of it, the more processing speeds are there. So last 20 years has been too rapid development in the tech sector. So it's pretty important that you set the bar and make sure that everyone meets that standard of the quality deliverable. So it is very important. So once you set the bar, and as team, actually you guys will understand what is your team velocity, how much you are actually meeting it. So as you set the bar, then you can slowly make sure that you can take your team to a mastery level. All right. So that's more about from the agile perspective. But let's talk a little bit more about, uh, I would say, like how exactly we build that strong team, right? A winning team. Yeah, it's it's pretty important. Doesn't matter which type of a project you run. It's it's damn important to you understand some certain basics of how to build that winning team, right? So yeah, you not everyone is a born coach. Not everyone can win people's heart. So uh, there's always, you'll work with different people, different from the different parts of the world, and there's every person is a unique. So there's always, every new person is a new learning in your life, I would say. So it's pretty important that you understand how you can coach, how you can coach yourself, or how you can make your team that winning team, the star performing team, right? So pretty basic guideline or basic steps what comes to my our mind is, do make sure that you understand your or entire team understand, or you understand your entire team's work, like what is their day-to-day work looks like. So I want you to know that you should be at least a couple of steps ahead of your entire team. If you are leading it, you should able to see conflict ahead of them. You should able to see blockers ahead of them, right? So make sure that you stay at least a couple of steps ahead with them. Then once you notice them ahead, then the next most important thing is you have an safe environment. I guess we talked about this in a multiple topics, like especially in the case of diversity, right? So everyone talks about diversity and inclusion, D and I. So but no one really understand the crux of it. People hire a couple of people from a diverse culture, or take an example of gender itself, or take an example of some teams where someone is running in a development and someone is doing a QA. So someone thinks that development is a premium quality, or someone is running a development and a business requirement. Someone thinks that okay, requirement is a father is an goal template for anyone. Development team doesn't understand anything properly. So people take ego when especially work in this certain type of roles. So when people gets too much egocentric, the environment will become toxic actually. So once environment become toxic, people are toxic, environment become toxic, no one would be feel safe to raise any issue. So assume that you're actually working on certain project, and one of your team member know that this would be a disaster to take it to the market, or it would be too late to take this product to the market because there's other additional good versions are already available in the market. But the year if environment is toxic culture you have, that person will never able to step up to communicate or let you know, and you'll end up taking your product to the market and losing millions of dollars there, right? So it's psychologically your team should have a safe environment. Okay, so when I say that, people should be very open to give the feedback, people should be very open to raise an issues concerns. So, and yeah, so I'm not talking about really personal, I'm not talking about work related stuff here. So when you make certain everyone such a responsible, or everyone is psychologically safe in that particular environment, it is pretty easy that you, the person will actually give you the honest feedback at way ahead as you start your discussions about doing your product development. So yeah, so for, and one more thing is when you interact with your team resources, yeah, do make sure that when you're, especially let's talk about a scenario where people have worked with you for more than a year and now they're leaving your organization, make sure that you send them with a pretty good send off, so you are in the good hearts in them and they are also in a good place with you. So this will actually help you, because it's all depends upon I remember reading one of the Vijit Bahadur's article, which explains, it talks about importance of hiring, it talks about how exactly an employee is being onboarded, how exactly an employee is let go from the organization. So these first couple of days entering the organization, couple of days leaving the organization, these are the most crucial things. So you have to make sure that when people joining it, they should not be facing any toxic culture. So get rid of the toxic culture in your workplace. So they should be psychologically safe, and even when they are leaving it, they, if they have that intention of leaving, then they should be actually able to let you know what exactly why before they make a decision. Okay, so if someone is simply coming back with an offer letter and resigning, and after that, after the fact, you're knowing that that person is leaving, then basically it's a failure in leadership. Actually, yeah, it means that you don't have a psychological safe culture in the environment. Okay, so yeah, so what are you say? This all comes back to basic ethics and professionalism. Don't you think that you need to have a positive environment? You need to make sure that you don't have a toxic culture in the team. Yeah. So especially when you psychological safety, and let's talk about one more thing here. So when we talk about psychological safety, when someone asking you help, actually if an individual comes and asks you for guidance or any help, yeah, so don't simply give them a solution and get them off your plate. Okay, so when it comes to team, make sure that when you are leading it, your best advice is try to make sure that the solution is coming from them. Even you're discussing something, make sure the other person understands it, so that they should be feeling that, rather than you help them give a solution to them. You should be making your conversation do a role play, so that always the other person try to make ask more questions and questions, so that other person at the end of the day they themselves will actually understand what the solution would be. Okay, so yes, basically in order to do all these things, if you think about it, it's pretty important that you understand, you have this non-toxic culture and environment, you understand this cultural concepts as you work in a different remote teams, you have the professional ethics and all that, right? Yep. So that's all, which at least it roughly it came to my mind, and I definitely we talked about all of these topics in last couple of podcasts or couple of 30 plus articles, but don't know. I actually felt to recall because more than 15 months, right? So we have been working remote. So I thought this is the best time again to remind ourselves 15 months what the journey of the remote working has. And if you are still continuing to be in a remote, or as people have worked for 15 months, so this culture would be, even when you go back to an office, you will be still be in a situation where a couple of resources would be still remote, couple of resources are still companies, if they are used now, they got the resources from different geographical location, they'll continue the same thing. They won't be getting everyone, because every country has immigration policies as well, right? So you will have definitely some percentage of it, uh, compared to like previously, if some 10% of remote culture was there, now definitely some 2x would be increased with the last 15 months of pandemic remote work, right? So yeah, so that's all. So yeah, mostly uh, I just talk this time, not really writing an article, no bullet points much. So if you have to listen to it, you, so sorry, if you have to know what this podcast is about, what we talked about it, you have to come to our show Minimalist Techie. So it's there on Apple Podcast, it's there on Spotify. So no text guys this time. So just now audio recording. People who hates, I know a couple of people who really mention, buddy, I really cannot read that much big articles. So so this one is for you guys. So so no excuse this time, because there is no text in this particular podcast. This is all just a audio version of me talking. All right, that'll be all then. So everyone have a great week ahead, and thank you all stopping by.